It's not impossible. What's good to know, which immigration don't tell you, is
to show that you can take care of your alien coming to the country. Unfortunately, there's really no way of avoiding it when you're an international couple. It's just part of the process.
Hello everybody.
Welcome back to our channel.
Zoom in on the Swedish resident.
Who? Me?
I'm Will.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Swedish.
I'm American.
And we are currently living in Gothenburg, Sweden.
Just trying to navigate life as an international couple.
Last week, we had amazing news. Morgan got her residency acceptance letter.
And your residency has been approved. I'm like baffled. All the waiting, all the stressing.
I can't believe the day has come that we are making this video.
So for the next coming 2 years, we do not have to count days, look through visa issues, and find some middle ground where we can just be in Sweden.
We'll probably still plan a trip to America to see my friends and family. However, it's nice not having to go back to America on a certain day.
After posting in the Facebook group regarding visa applications and residency applications to Sweden, we'll link the Facebook group down below if you're not already a member. We highly recommend it. We got a lot of questions and a lot of messages about our process, so we thought, let's sit down and make a video about it.
We've been wanting to do this ever since we sent in our application. We thought it would be best if we waited until the process was over for us, kind of sit down so we can walk you through the entire process. We're just hoping that this video can help anybody in the same situation as us. We hope to give a lot of answers today. However, we cannot technically give legal advice.
This is just our story and tips
that made our process a little bit easier, or maybe made an impact on us getting approved a little bit faster.
Sometimes it can be confusing with all the legal lingo when you're applying for residency and all the requirements, so we thought let's just bring it down to black and white and just talk you guys through it. So where do we start?
Number one, most importantly, is the maintenance requirements. Things like housing and income, things that you legally have to have in order to take care of your partner for the next coming years. Immigration wants to see that you have an apartment or a house in order to provide for the person that you're trying to bring to Sweden.
First of all, you cannot live with your parents. Second of all, the space has to be big enough for whatever the requirements are. For our case, which is most people's cases, you need a room and a kitchen. The kitchen can be in the room, so it can be a studio apartment, but the kitchen needs to either be a full-on kitchen or what is in Sweden is called a kokvrå. It cannot be a cooking cabinet or a shared kitchen, which is very common for students.
You have to have a stove top and an oven.
Yes, correct. This comes more if you have kids in the image, but all of this you can find at migrationsverket.se. We will also link all of the different sites, but we're just gonna go through it as much as we can.
In video format, it's a bit easier sometimes to understand.
With the housing requirements, what we advised and what we did was that you contact your landlord or the housing association and get a written statement that your partner is allowed to live in the apartment if he or she gets accepted.
Luckily, our landlord is very kind. It was no problem for us to get a letter. Hopefully it shouldn't be a problem for you either.
Together with this, you need to submit your housing contract and the last couple of rental slips. I think we did 3 months. Second of all, finances. This is where it gets tricky because I'm a student. For the last couple of years, Morgan and I have been fortunate enough to be working on and off and been able to save up quite a lot of money.
When it comes to money, you can either have a lump sum amount of money or you can have a consistent income coming in. There is a certain amount that you have to have.
Plus your rent. Take that times 24, and that's the lump sum you need to have in your account, in savings, in mutual funds, in stocks, in different things, whatever you want. But you have to prove that you have that amount when your partner gets accepted.
We were asked multiple times to prove the amount, to make sure that we still had the amount. Even when it came to a week before our application was approved, they wanted to make sure that Will still had the funds from when we applied.
What other people in the group has suggested is keep maybe like 10% above the limit you need to have in case you do have stocks or bonds or mutual funds or anything that may cost you tax.
Just a little buffer. I know it's a lot of information, but honestly it's not as daunting as it seems. The other thing is that my finances and my personal situation did not matter whatsoever. It has to be coming from the Swedish citizen to show that you can take care of your alien coming to the country, aka me.
If you do have shared bank accounts, you could bring those into the equation as well. We didn't use our shared bank accounts because we didn't want to take the risk of them coming back and saying something about it not being my money or something like that.
It was just easier for us to show Will's bank account that he had the funds on his own.
Basically, it doesn't matter if you're a student or if you're working. The housing requirements and the financial requirements are still there. Number 2, what we started way before we even started the application was preparing for the application.
It's important to gather proof of your relationship, things like photos together, plane tickets, train tickets, places you've traveled together, just to prove that your relationship is genuine and real. I know it can feel a bit personal. When we were submitting our application, I got a little bit offended that we had to share so much of our personal life with the government. Unfortunately, there's really no way of avoiding it when you're an international couple. It's just part of the process, and if you want to be together, then you gotta just let it go.
It can seem very invasive, but it's also important to know that the more you can show a paper trail of your relationship, the more you can prove that you've lived together, you've traveled together, you've done things together, you met each other's family, the stronger your relationship seems in the eyes of the government and immigration.
We even sent in text messages, chats that we had from the very beginning of our relationship, and I think we sent an entire book of photos from each month that we were together. Luckily, I'm very adamant on always taking pictures. I always force Will to take more pictures than he wants to, but in this case, it really came in handy. Whatever you can gather that proves your relationship is legit, I would put it in the application.
Like Morgan said, the more evidence you have, the better, but also remember that people do need to go through your evidence.
So narrow it down.
One of my favorite parts that we actually did before we applied was that we sat down one evening and we just talked through our relationship, just checking up so you remember the right dates.
It's important to make sure you're on the same page.
You need to know your partner's birthday. You need to know the day you maybe met, like your year date. Not stuff that I kept forgetting for the first 1.5 years we were together. Was it the 15th or the 16th of October?
Wow, the truth comes out.
Oh, don't you remember that?
Number 3.
Now it's time for you to start your application. First of all, you can't be in Sweden. It makes no sense, but you can't.
So for us, we couldn't start our application until May of 2021. We needed certain things to check off the list so that we could be in.
It's super frustrating, but do it the right way from the start and just leave Sweden.
Because they will track you and they will find out.
Basically, after you start the application, this is the person moving to Sweden.
This is the part where it gets real personal. They ask all the questions, everything about your relationship they want to know.
But also everything about your family, about your background, where you've lived, if you live together with a partner. So all the proof that you've collected before this will come real handy now. You can save your application as a PDF and then pull it down to your computer or print it out and read through it. Don't stress through this part. A lot of people come back and say, oh, I made this mistake in my application. Oh no, how can I change this? It's much harder to fix a problem. It's not impossible, but it's much harder after you made the application. So just go through it in peace and quiet and make sure you have 30 days.
And after you submitted your application, you have to pay the fee of your application, which is roughly $220, and that in kroner is 2,000 kroner.
You don't get this money back if your application gets rejected, but that's not the plan. The plan is to be accepted.
You get it back if you get approved?
No. They take the money.
You don't get the money back either way.
No. After this, you'll get a confirmation email which carries your case number, which is basically the ID of your application. Super important to have. This is the one you use to check up on your application, but also to identify your application from this point on to your residence acceptation.
What was that word?
Acceptation. This ID number is super important to just keep hold on. Save the email, write it down somewhere. You will use it from your starting date to the date where your application has gone through and been approved, hopefully.
I'm super lucky to have a document guy here. He helps me a lot with the application. He's very thorough when it comes to applications. I can't say that I would have done it as well if I didn't have Will's help. So maybe sit down as a couple. It's always better to have 4 eyes rather than 2 and look through it together.
And be truthful about it. They will ask you in the application if anyone helped you.
Number 4.
Now, your partner will receive an email. It's their turn to answer all the questions. And this is where all the material and all the proof of the housing requirements and financial requirements come handy. Sit down, take the time, and make sure that you do it properly from the start.
Number 5. Now you wait.
No one can tell you how long you will have to wait for your specific application. There's an estimate on the website of Migrationsverket.
It's different for everybody, which we will never understand, and I wish I could tell you a reason why that is, but we were super fortunate to only, if you will, have to wait almost 8 months. A lot of other people wait a lot longer than that.
And also without hearing anything. But it's important to know that you shouldn't try to stress the process by calling or emailing. I think it's important to update your information, such as pay slips and rental agreement. And if you want to send in a couple of more photos after you've applied, you are what is called the investigation part, which is the part up to your interview. Immigration won't tell you this, but I actually asked because I wanted to know if Morgan was legally allowed to be in Sweden. If you are from a country that doesn't require a visa to get into Sweden, you can come and go as you want during the investigation part, as long as you go within the 90 days in a 180 days spectrum.
So if you're American, for instance, you can still go visit your partner for up to 90 days at a time while the investigation process is happening.
If you are from a country that needs a visa to get to Sweden, that visa will actually cancel out your visa application that you're doing with the residency. It will basically pause it while you're here. Fortunately, then you just have to sit tight in the boat or meet up somewhere else if you can.
After the investigation process comes the interview. We will mention that we didn't have an interview. We were lucky enough to skip this step because we've been together consistently for the last 3 years of our relationship. We've basically dedicated all of our time to figuring out how we can be together in the same country.
What immigration values is that you've lived together for 2 years. We were a bit surprised when they said that we didn't have an interview because we thought it was only applicable for people who have lived together and can show on paper, aka rental agreement.
We have lived together, but we haven't had an apartment together for a consistent 2 years. We were traveling for a long time, so we were living together technically, but we couldn't show it on paper.
We'll just go through this very quickly as we don't have any experience of this, but you'll receive an email to book your appointment. Depending on what country you are from, you will have longer or shorter waiting times, and some countries also have to go to another country for an embassy meeting because you don't have an embassy in your country.
So if we were to do this process, I would have had to leave Sweden. I would have had to have left Sweden and go back to America to have an interview in Washington, D.C., where the U.S. Embassy is located. Where the Swedish Embassy is located.
What can be said about the interview, however, and what we know about the interview after doing research for our interview that never happened, is basically that you need to bring all your documents in paper form, all the proof, just like a binder. Then you go to an interview where they will ask questions similar to the one in the application about your partner, and here it's super important to just match your application.
Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out and just tell the truth.
Yeah, because as long as you've told the truth in your application, there will be no concern of telling the truth at the embassy during your interview. Step number 8.
The decision part of your application.
During this part, you're not allowed to be in Sweden
while they're making a decision on your case. So don't think that after your interview you can just hop back on a flight over to Sweden because your application process will be paused.
What's good to know, which immigration don't tell you, is that if it's been more than 6 months and you've had your interview, you can request to conclude your case, which gives immigration 4 weeks to give you an answer.
How did we find this out?
We found this out through the Facebook group. Join the Facebook group. Link below. It's very important to know you only have one shot at requesting to conclude your case during the entire process, so don't waste it.
Again, we are just sharing our experience because we think it's helpful to hear other people's experience. I was super stressed about all of this. It seemed unachievable completely when we started, and now we're on the other side of it. It's such a relief.
And don't think that immigration are evil and that they're bad at their jobs and that the system is attacking you.
Obviously, it all depends on a lot of things. It depends on where your case gets sent to. It's kind of like the passport process if you watch that video of ours. My passport came in the freaking mail.
Hey!
It depends on where your application goes to get processed. That might also have to do with the waiting period. It also depends on the case handler that you get. We were fortunate enough to get a super sweet case handler. She was so kind. She actually reached out to us just before they were ready to make the decision and just asked for a couple more things just to make sure everything was cool and in line. And then she reached out to us when they were ready to make the decision. There are good people out there. It is possible that you will get a very nice person handling your case. Obviously, if you saw, we took a trip down to Copenhagen. That was us getting out of the country so that immigration could make a decision. Denmark happened to be the closest and most convenient place that we could go to get out of Sweden. Immigration got back to us very swiftly. And yeah, that was our experience.
It's not impossible. We just want to say that. It may take time. Perseverance, preparation.
Hopefully we covered everything that you were looking to find in this video. If we didn't, you can find a lot of information on immigration's website. Thank you guys for watching. We truly appreciate each and and every one of you that come and watch our videos. We're here to encourage you, and if you have any questions or you just want a little piece of advice or encouragement, we're happy to help. Just leave us a comment down below.
And also don't forget to subscribe.
Please subscribe to our channel.
Take care and see you next week.
We'll see you next week. Bye!
Hey, no.
We're back.
We did do that did happen. That's a tongue twister.
Come on, little camera. It's really struggling with us.
We were talking about different things, but
Not the...
what is happening?
I'm not the document guy.
It's fine.
Welcome back to tea time. It's now only tea time because Will has his coffee in the morning and I have my tea in the afternoon, so our timing is off and we can never have coffee and tea time together.
Whoopsie daisy.
You smell like soup.
I do.
This freaking camera. Me looking for.
What?
Kissing on camera.